Hello and welcome to the Tech Partner News podcast, where we talk to leaders in the tech channel across Australia. I'm your host, Ben Moore, and today I'm joined by Alex Coates, CEO of Interactive, one of Australia's oldest and largest IT services firms. But first, let's hear a message from our sponsor.
There's a lot going on for Microsoft partners right now. Today's pressures, CSP program changes, compliance, security. Tomorrow's challenges, AI disruption, rising customer expectations. It's tough just keeping up, let alone getting ahead. That's where Data comes in. Australia's #1 Microsoft Cloud, Azure SMB, and Copilot distributor. With 45 years experience and 28 local experts who know Microsoft inside out. They help you turn disruption into opportunity. With the right people, growth-led programs, and exclusive partnerships. Make Microsoft work for you. Visit dicadata.com.au/Microsoft.
Welcome, Alex.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really pleased to be here.
Alex, you've been in the IT services space for a little bit of time now. Can you give us a brief history of your experience in the industry?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the tech sector for sort of 25 years, both here in Australia, but before that in Europe and the UK. And, I've grown my career in technology, in a period of time where the industry has changed so much over that time. But I've been in leadership roles for the last sort of 10 to 15 years. And that's led me to this point now of running a local tech company. And yeah, I couldn't be any more delighted to have started at Interactive and continuing my career in an industry that is just an amazing one to be in.
The last decade plus has been a pretty dramatic period of change in the world of tech. We've seen public cloud and SaaS and digitalization and remote work, and now we've got these new AI tools. It's just been so much so quickly. How has all of that change been reflected in the IT services market over the last 10 years, do you think?
Yeah, look, I think the really exciting thing for any of us working in the tech industry is this notion that you cannot separate technology from business performance anymore. And I see that as just the most exciting bit about what we do, because historically, 10 years ago, IT was a cost driver. It was not an enabler. And so I see that intertwining of business and technology as just being super exciting. And that means that the IT services market continues to grow. What customers are consuming from it, yes, is different. But, I think the customer expectations have changed, and they've not only changed in kind of what capabilities they're sourcing from the market, but they're also their expectations around customer service and how you show up and cultural alignment of a partner have also changed. And I think, that really does mean that as an MSP or a service provider, you have to constantly think about your product and services mix to know that you've got a set of capabilities that meet the customer's unmet need. And then you need to equally think about how you're going to show up in front of a customer so that you are different from your competition, of course, but that you're meeting the customer in what they need from a cultural partner as well.
Why do you think that's changed so much? Why is there more of that emphasis on cultural fit, on, customer focus, on all of those things that you've talked about compared to what it was like 10 years ago?
Well, I think part of it is just pace of change. It's just so fast that you have to have a service provider that's one step ahead, really, ideally. So that's the first bit. The pace of change has just driven this. Just the customer is changing so quickly. The industry needs to change, and historically, I think you probably would have viewed service providers as not the fastest companies out the shed either. It's a very traditional kind of service. And then I think that you are then faced with very new things AI, cybersecurity, outcome-based sourcing, and again, that means that the customer's expectations have changed because they need a different approach from a service provider. But I think we would be remiss if we didn't think about the global uncertainty that there is at the moment, and that plays out for companies, and that means that there's no hiding from that, and that is creating uncertainty and ambiguity. And again, that means that the customers need from their service provider stability as well as agility and a point of view around where these new technologies are going. And so that has definitely changed.
So to kind of distill what you've said there is that as the complexity has increased, there's needed to be more trust placed basically into these service providers. That the business operators need to be able to feel like this person or these people understand and know and can work with us, because we don't want to end up getting sold the wrong thing or being left behind or being oversold. And so that's part of the change. That complexity has led to that shift.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And complexity and ambiguity are the two certains in our world right now.
Absolutely, yeah. You kind of touched on this a little bit, but are there any specific challenges that MSPs are facing or service providers are facing in today's market that are quite unique about this time that we're in?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're living in a market which is obviously hugely competitive, and you've got sort of global MSPs that are moving from the enterprise down into the mid-market stack, and you've got organizations just like Interactive whose kind of breeding ground is mid-market, and so therefore it's squeezing the competitive middle, if you like. And so you have to think about differentiation really, really deliberately. The second piece, though, and maybe not everyone will agree on this, is I think the pace of change means that it's going to be incredibly hard for one service provider to do it on their own. We have a point in time where the pace of change and the kind of technology that we're looking at now means that tackling that on your own as an MSP, unless you have significant scale or deep investment, is very hard to get to on your own. And so my ambition, I suppose, for Interactive is not only to play a role as our job, but to play a role in the broader industry of seeing all boats rise. And the third challenge that I would say is skills. We're working alongside everyone else in the government's goal to get 1.3 million jobs into the tech sector by 2030. And you have to have seriously deliberate strategies around not only skilling your talent, keeping your talent, reskilling your talent for the future, but also it starts at the ground roots around in schools and universities and so on and so forth, to get as many people thinking that the tech sector is the place to be.
Let's take a quick pause to hear a message from our sponsor.
Need a Microsoft distributor to help you thrive in the AI era? Data has the proven people, programs, and partnerships to modernize your practice and turn disruption into opportunity. 40 growth-led programs, from onboarding and partnering, capability building and enablement, through to go-to-market campaigns. 60 plus certifications across Azure, AI, security and Copilot, plus 5 in-house Microsoft certified trainers working directly with you. Their partners say they're like an extension of their team. Make Microsoft work for you. Visit dicadata.com.au/Microsoft.
On those first two, you mentioned differentiation. How do you do that at a time when you're being pressured, like you say, by these big multinationals with more resources, with thousands of people, in different countries? How do you convince the companies that you're working with that you're still the best option when you're going up against titans?
Well, for me, that's being very clear as to segmentation. You will not be everything to all people. It is impossible, and there will be many organisations that that choose a global sourcing provider for the reasons that they choose. But there is deliberate segments where I think that companies have have a different point of view around that engagement. Geopolitical uncertainty, massively heightened Australian regulations, SOCI, APRA, CPS 230, all of those things mean that many customers do need a company that deeply understands the critical infrastructure and the deep regulatory environment of our country. And I think that's really thinking through and deliberating what your superpower is as a company and where that superpower meets unmet need in either customers or industry segments. That's a deliberate part of strategy planning, and companies need to do that far more deeply than they have before.
And then cooperation. You're not the first, leader of a big IT services company to really call for better cooperation across Australian MSPs and other services providers. But how do you do that? What does that look like? What infrastructure needs to be in place to enable that? What attitudes need to change to actually enable that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that it's an infrastructure question; it's a mindset shift, and I I think about our job as an industry is to turn the topical into tangible. Our job as the industry is to decrypt AI into meaningful use cases for companies to understand. And I think you can't try and think of this. If you think about AI, you can go so wildly broad, it's not funny. I think the job of us working collectively together is to take the most ambitious use cases that there are in certain industries and to try and solve those together and then incrementally build on that. But it is as simple as taking a use case or a challenge out in a customer or an industry and getting together and talking about it. But I think the interesting thing for me is how little it happens. How little it actually happens, and it takes leadership and it takes mindsets. And I guess my call to action is that I will lead those discussions with other partners and with other providers in the hope that we can do better.
As you said, you've been in a leadership role in these companies for quite a while in your time in the industry. What does it mean to be an effective leader of an IT services company?
As a leader of a service provider in particular, customer centricity is at the core of what you have to drive in your company, from the grassroots to the top, and you have to lead by example. And every single meeting, every single internal meeting, you must think with your customer in mind. And that's an easy thing to state and a really hard thing to do. Probably the most meaningful thing for me as a leader is to inspire pride and belonging. I think the work that we do in the sector that we work in is incredibly impactful. And your job as a leader is to build a bridge between the work that people do in the company to the impact it makes out in your community. And when you can do that and you can articulate that in true customer centric terms, you build belonging and pride beyond anything else. And I look forward to doing that at Interactive. And I look at the work Interactive does day in, day out, and my day, and there aren't many companies or places I go in my day where Interactive aren't at the core of how that company operates. And articulating that for people is a powerful tool.
So just finally, let's look ahead. You've talked about your passion for the Australian industry and for being, keeping it local as you were. What would you like to see in the future of the Australian IT services industry? What do you think needs? What would you like to see happen? Where would you like us to be in the next 5 to 10 years, say?
Yeah, I think that again, there's three things that for me are top of mind. Firstly, I hope that broadly that technology is better recognized for the profound impact it has and the pervasive impact it has across every industry. It is central to this country thriving in the future. And so I hope that technology has more of a voice at the table where it matters most, to make sure that that's understood, recognised and respected, so that we can continue to do the amazing work that already is done. And a lot of that I've talked about is the art of storytelling and connecting technology to impact. My second hope, and I've touched on this, Ben, but is that the Australian IT services industry collaborates wildly, much better than it has before, and in ways it's never done before. And I hope we collaborate to create better impact for our customer and our country that we are all blessed to live in. And then my final hope, and obviously a topic dear to my heart, being a female in a changing but still with a way to go diverse industry. But I hope that the Australian IT services industry can be the most inclusive it can be, and rich in diverse perspectives, skills and talent, because it is an amazing industry to be in, and we should not stop until it's a place where everyone wants to be. It's a place where everyone can do whatever dance they want to pull on the dance floor, they can do it, because we respect it, and we've built an inclusive dance floor where people can flourish, and I have a strong deep desire to want to see that happen.
It's a unique analogy. I don't think I've heard that one before, but I really like it. Got me thinking about the nature of dance and humanity for a moment there. So it's really nice.
I say this, I say this to the interactive teams regularly. I don't mind whether you want to dance or not. I don't mind what dance you want to pull on the dance floor. I don't care how long you want to dance for or who you want to dance with. But what I want you to do is to feel like you can come to the dance and be yourselves when you come to that dance too, because that's the power of inclusivity, the power of diversity that you get by being the most inclusive place you can be.
Thank you so much, Alex. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Ben, and thanks for the questions.
And thank you everyone out there for listening. To make sure you don't miss an episode, subscribe wherever it is you are listening. And if there's someone whose story you'd like to hear, send your suggestions to editors@techpartner.news. For more news from and for the Australian Technology Channel, head over to techpartner.news. I've been Ben Moore.